Living close to the Vatican, having the opportunity to interact and socialize with priests from all over the world, but also particularly with people who worked full-time in the Vatican, it humanized the Vatican for me. It was no longer a distant bureaucracy, but it was guys that I got to know, have dinner with, meet for a cappuccino someplace. People who had the trials and tribulations of any other person in life. That was a very good humanizing experience for me. The other side of the which is the ministry side really, with the parishioners in Rome, is that it quickly became clear to me that this is not just any ordinary parish. Most of our parishioners, because of the kind of jobs they had, were on temporary assignments in Rome. People who worked for American corporations or people who worked for various branches of the American government. And they were in careers that involved their having to rotate and live in different parts of the world. Not just America and Rome, but you'd look out and see, oh, that family, they were living in Indonesia last year, and that other family, they'd spent the last 5 years in Korea, or somebody else had been in South America for a few years. Is that all these people are coming into this situation where God has offered them the opportunity to walk in the dust of the martyrs. This is a unique opportunity in their lives. And many of them returned to active church practice during the time of their assignment in Rome. We kind of worked it out together. Very rewarding work, too. I met Pope John Paul II several times, yes. He had a little trouble remembering my name, but if I was in a group and he came and he'd look at me and point, he'd always like to point his finger, and he'd just point at me and say, Santa Susanna. He made the connection. The first time I met him was just about 2.5 months after I got to Rome. And he made a surprise visit to come and see the monastic community of nuns at Santa Susanna, but I was informed that he also wanted to meet the American priest who was in charge of the church at Santa Susanna. So I was there, and after he had completed his visit with the nuns, he came and visited with me, together with Father Ron Robertson. And he chatted with us in English about our ministry. I remember him looking at our little office, and he said, "You take care of all the Americans in Rome from this little space?" With kind of a big note of surprise. In June of 1993, we had another special day with Pope John Paul II. Santa Susanna Church had been closed for a few years, and after some repairs were completed and it was reopened, in February of 93, I wrote him a letter. And I said, we'd like to celebrate the reopening of this church. We're planning to have a bunch of Americans, former parishioners, come on an escorted tour to Rome in June. And it looks like these will be the dates. And I would be delighted, we would be delighted, if you could come and say Mass in our church while they're here. Now, I must confess that I had somebody look at his calendar, and I knew that he had 2 open Sundays still for June. And so those happened to be the 2 Sundays that I mentioned in my letter. And within about a week or 10 days, I got a letter back from his office saying that he would be delighted to come. So he accepted the invitation. He didn't even bother checking with the Diocese of Rome. He just kind of spontaneously took it up. And then he did come and had a wonderful day with us. Celebrated Mass in English and gave a wonderful, enthusiastic homily, encouraging us to continue in our ministry, and especially mentioned what the Paulists do about reconciliation, and ecumenism, and getting out and reaching out to people. A great day.